The Cold War was a political and ideological conflict that happened between 1945 and 1987 and started just after the Second World War, so the World War tension was still there. This conflict mainly involved two world powers. In one side, there was the USA, known as the Western Bloc and support of capitalism, and in the other side, there was the USSR, known as the Eastern Bloc and supporter of socialism. Once Nazism was defeated, each of these powers tries to impose their own political and ideological interests worldwide. This war is characterized for having an international impact but not having a direct violent confrontation between the USA and the USSR because they were cautious about starting a third World War that could have been even worse by the introduction of nuclear weapons. The reason it's called the Cold War is because it never escalated or warmed up enough to a big violent war as the ones before. Even if they didn't have a military conflict between them, both countries had their part and involvement in parallel conflicts such as the ones in Vietnam, Afghanistan, the Koreas, and the missile crisis in Cuba.
Given the increasing of this conflict, some military blocs were created for protection and defense of their interests by supporting each one of their members. In 1945, NATO was created by the USA as defense against communism and protection in case the conflict aggravated to a worldwide war. 10 years later, in 1955, NATO's counterpart was created by the USSR with the establishment of the Warsaw Pact. If war had happened, these two blocs would have faced each other in a belligerent situation involving the entire world. The conflict involved a lot of competition between both countries that wished to prove that their development and advances were better than the other one, justifying the political system as the best option. It's important to recognize the considerable arms race of this era, as well as the extension of their competition with the called Star Wars, that consisted on the effort of conquering the space to generate worldwide respect and admiration, having at the end the USA as the winner with their arrival to the moon.
The internal conflicts in the USSR were increasing as well to the point that the country started being weak because the socialist system was starting to show its flaws. At the same time, the US started having even more economical and political superiority worldwide. Beginning the 90s, the presidents of both countries, Reagan and Gorbachev, agreed to end up with the ideological battle by signing an agreement in 1987. A new era for international relations started with more cooperation and peace between both countries. Years later, in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, having the Germans unified in one country and weakening even more the Soviet system. The USSR found its final disintegration and the consequently disappearance of socialism in 1991. If the socialism hadn't failed, the conflict would probably continue today.